Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm very excited to share our guests with you. But before we do, I would like to thank some folks that we always thank. We'd like to thank brassandwinds.com, a Quinn the Eskimo company. When we are looking for brass and wind instruments for our students and for ourselves, we always go to brassandwinds.com. We hope you will as well. Brassandwinds.com, a Quinn the Eskimo company. We are Truer MU, and we offer classes online teaching jazz piano to beginners, people that don't know anything, and you can take those classes virtually. If you would prefer to study with a person, you can check us out at willowschoolga.com, Willow Music. We teach violin and piano and trombone and saxophone, anything you like. Please visit us at willowschoolga.com. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to a couple of people who started a band 50 years ago, and the band was called Mother's Finest. This outfit had toured and recorded all over the world. They had 3 gold records, and they are in the Georgia Music Hall of Fame. I would like to introduce you to Joyce Kennedy and Glenn Murdoch. Thank you for joining us today. And
hey, thanks for having us.
Oh, yeah, that was
special.
Yep. Before we get into the band, I want to talk about your backgrounds first. Glenn, first of all, I want you to talk a little bit about your mom, because I know for reading your bio, she was important to you. Talk about what she did for you as a child.
Oh, she was the epitome of womanhood. You know, she did everything right to let me understand and make me understand about, you know, the plight that I would endure with women. And she was just great. She was kind of a model. She is kind of she modeled, but she wasn't like an official model because and yeah, she was just great. She taught me everything I knew. One great story I'm going to tell you that defines my mom. She used to take me places, the shows, and we lived in Chicago, and we went to one night. She took me to the Regal Theater, and there was a show there called the Jewel Box Review. Mm-hmm. I had no idea what it was about. So we get on, it was a female male impersonation type of situation. Oh, wow. The woman who was introducing everybody, it was a guy, and she was doing Billie Holiday. And then there was this dancers, what do you call the foo-foo dancers, a long line with legs out. And they were dancing, and to make a long story short, they had a lot of 10 celebrities. And then at the end of the show, all these women, I thought, took off their bras and all their faults fell out on the floor. And I was 15 years old. So wow. That's what my mom did to me. I don't know if she opened up good or bad.
That's show business,
what
son.
The world really looks like. It's show business.
Yeah. And she took me to the roller derby. I didn't get anybody. Yeah. In Chicago, I didn't know anybody else on the planet that was into roller derby. My mom was.
Well, she was a very open-minded woman.
Very.
She was also a dancer. She hung out with Luke Ellingtons and those type of guys, and Joe Williams in that era, you know?
Yeah. She was a hoofer.
Yeah, she was a hoofer. So, yeah, she opened up the world to him. That's all. She was a very open. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. My son took his first steps in her house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was great.
And Joyce, you had a
long time ago.
You had a very interesting upbringing too. You grew up in, let me see if I'm pronouncing this right, Anguilla, Mississippi. Is that correct?
Nobody can pronounce that word, dude.
Did I get it right? Anguilla. And it has a population,
I think. Close. You were close.
And it has a population of about 700 people, I believe, still today. And yet at least 3 prominent musicians came from Anguilla, and you being one of them, which is interesting given it's such a small town. What was it like growing up there?
I did not grow up there. I was only born there.
Oh, I see. Where did you grow up?
Okay, so I grew up in Chicago.
Oh.
Which is how I met Glenn.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so
there you go. That's where it all began.
When did you move to Chicago? How old were you?
I was 7.
Oh, okay. you had a career before you met Glenn that we could devote an entire other interview to. So I know you did
Absolutely.
a lot of singing and recording prior to meeting Glenn. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, I'd love to hear it, about how you got into the business.
I happened to a lady who was spent a lot of time counseling young artists coming up. She had a whole house full of singers and boy groups and girl groups. I had a band, real important, and they didn't show up for rehearsal one day. So I knew exactly where they were. They was over to Miss Moore's house, and Miss Moore only lived maybe 5 blocks walking from where I lived at the time. So I walked over there all huffed up and mad because they didn't show up for rehearsal and didn't let anybody know. So I went over there, and there they were down there auditioning for her. And I sat on the steps. And of course, anywhere, I can't help singing. I sing it when I'm making dinner. I sing when I'm cleaning the house. So they were singing a song. What's the name of that band? It was, I can't remember the name of it now. It's been too long.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, I knew the song because we had already rehearsed it. So I was singing the girl part. And she heard me. She said, who is that singing? Somebody said, she said, everybody be quiet. Somebody's singing. She said, who is that singing? And everybody said, that's Joyce. So she said, Joyce, are you singing? I said, yeah. She said, get down here. So I went down and I sang the song. I can't remember the song now. And from then on, I auditioned for his Al Williams talent show, talent agency. And from then he got a record deal for me called at RCA Records. And I recorded my first #1 record, which was I Still Love You. And I did a couple of more after that as I grew up. But then, you know, I started being a teenager and difficult to handle. And, you know, I got a little conceited, you know what I mean? So as time went on, and eventually I met Glenn. And that was, I think I Still Love You was #1 at the time. And they billed me on the radio station as 16 years old with 100 years of soul.
Oh, wow.
So they knew all about me because it was a big record in Chicago. It was an area hit, you know, it wasn't worldwide. Local, yeah. Local hit, you know. So all the guys wanted to know who I was. And I was only 16.
Yeah.
And so they came to the club, and what we did in those days was called like a sock hop, or it was like you mimicked your record. Now is recorded. Now in the digital age, you sing the tracks. In those days, you just sang along with your record. So I was doing that, and then they knew that it was, and one thing led to another, and we fell in love and, you know, hit the road. The day Woodstock started, we left Chicago, going to Dayton, Ohio, where we met Moses Moore, who was the guitar player.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the idea of Mother's Finest.
Yeah. So
how'd I do?
You did great. I want to talk about what Mother's Finest is. So there have been a lot of white groups that have, you know, taken on a black sound or tried to, another, you know, from, you know, the Doobie Brothers to any number of acts. Black acts taking on a rock and roll sound is far, far rare. In fact, I mean, I can list a few black artists that have done rock, but as far as an actual combination of rock and roll with, you know, African-American vocal sound, I can't think of anyone else besides you. It's truly original and still surprising to hear today. It still sounds unusual today. How did you come to that sound? Yeah.
Well, you know, first of all, we wanted to be a band who would, most anybody would like, no matter what genre you were in or what your nationality was. We wanted to be an entertaining band. We all came from different facets of that. Like our bass player, Wizard Say, he came from a family of 12, including his mother. They were all phenomenal musicians and singers. Glenn came from the hallway doo-wop band groups, which loved full harmonies.
Yeah.
Mixed with the jazz and all that. So you mix that with Wizard's background in gospel, mine in deep soul. Mo was a white guitar player, but he liked Ohio players. He was from Ohio. And he liked the Commodore, the rhythm sections. And you add that with him being able to play deep into the pocket, which most guys can play in the pocket, but Mo could play deep into the pocket.
Right.
And keyboard sounds, which is futuristic, which was the beginning of Baby Love. Nobody had heard an Oberheim before. Michael played that intro on Baby Love. So you bring all those parts together, and we used to go, we said, if we live together, we'll become one consciousness. We lived together, we stole food together, we saved gas together, you know, we smoked weed out of one bag because we only had enough to buy a bag. And I mean, you know, and we became a consciousness, a soul, a spirit, and we liked all the same things. We loved the Jimi Hendrix, we loved the Sly and the Stone, we loved the Who, and we loved the Rolling Stones. So taking a little bit of essences from all those bands, we didn't care who they were. If it was a cool thing, we thought we could make it happen.
Yeah.
So starting out doing a lot of cover songs, we eventually rolled into our own funky sound, which we call Murdoch named Funk Rock Georgia. You know,
when we got to Georgia.
When we got to Georgia, because everything great happened to us in Georgia, and Atlanta, Georgia has been our base.
So we didn't make it up. We let it happen. Yeah. You know, not judging from now. The music that we made, we just let it happen. You know, we had all those influences. And so we just, you know, Mo was a rock funk guitar player, you know, mostly rock. Mm-hmm. And we just let him happen. The same thing with Wizard. They just happened to connect, especially those two guys. Yeah. They connected really, really from the beginning. You know, they were just like,
of one person.
Yeah, they made they were responsible for the sound. Yeah. You know, they're mostly responsible for the sound that we had. We put the voices and the harmonies and the gospel and the jazz, and Joyce and I weren't afraid to do anything. Yeah. We used to do a lot of covers. Beatles. We did, what was that?
Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah, we did. That was one of our favorites.
Chicago's 609.
We did Chicago.
Horn parts.
Yeah, we did. We would do unorthodox stuff that nobody else was doing, you know. And
I heard you cover
and a lot of energy.
Forever.
Strawberry Fields, because I'm really good at ballads. Mm-hmm. And that's the one time to where, you know, I'm not singing on top of the band. I get involved within the music, and it makes a different whole nother sound of emotion, you know, so that's the deal with that.
I want to talk about the name of the band. Jerry tells a story, and I want to know if the story is true. He says, we wanted to be great music people, travel and entertain. It was not about money and fame. In that spirit, we wanted to call the band the Mother F-ers, and he did not say F-ers.
Right.
But we couldn't get that many write-ups with that. We knew we were onto something. We didn't MF, though. Is that true?
That's true. We couldn't say the word because
that's where the name came from.
We're really good at saying that name, saying that word, mother, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So, and we tried to keep that going. We had another mother further. We had one mother to another. Mm-hmm. We had mother actor. We had mother spiders, meta fucking physical. Yeah.
Right,
so we ran out. That's all good.
Now, before you met Tom Weirman, we are going to talk about your Tom Weirman experience, but you had a career, you had a label connection with RCA first. You were signed to RCA in 72. And I know that for you, that wasn't a great experience, but I love the records, the two records that you did. I listened to them and really enjoyed them. I know that experience for you, however, was not great. Can you talk about hearing that first record and what happened?
Yes. What happened was Dave Apple and what was that guy's name?
Was that RCA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It was Hank Mattis and Dave Apple.
Good for you.
And Dave Apple and Hank Mattis, they did Lion Sleeps Tonight, that whole thing, you know, and they did.
Was that Tyre Yellow Ribbon too?
Yes. That one I actually liked. That was cool. I like all the songs, but they produced this. And we bought a handful of songs and that we had worked on. They were raw. They were very just the band. We didn't have any extra bounds or horns or anything like that. So we went to New York and with an RCA big old studio, and they fed us cocaine. I mean, like, who does that?
I don't know.
Right. That and trying to take pictures and trying to do this record. And it was a little bit above us in that, you know, we had this giant studio, which we know we wanted to record in something that was
intimate,
a little more intimate, you know, but but they were insistent on all of this. So once they got the raw material, they took it from us, so went back to New York and added
horns,
especially horns. That was, and they didn't tell us anything about this. We weren't in on it. They didn't let us hear or see any of what they did, which was, we didn't know they were going to do that, you know? And then so we sat up in our manager's office, and there was Hugh Rogers at the time. And we sat down and we had champagne, and we're going to listen to this wonderful record that we made. And
I was in tears.
Oh, we all were.
I was in tears.
When we started listening back at it, we go,
what the hell?
Wow. It was to us, it was horrible.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you had done that record like we did it,
it would have been raw and
it would have been one of the most different albums probably ever, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Because it was just, I mean, you're talking about a black group who didn't do it. It's not just rock, it is self-contained, which you didn't have. You had in the black experience, there was a lead singer and a band, you know, and it was usually a big band with
most groups, it was a lead singer and a band, actually.
Yeah, but we were self-contained, and all of that soup that we made, that all those wonderful ingredients got destroyed.
Yeah.
When they put this, oh God.
See, the thing about some people that hear it, they feel that it's great, but then they want to change it. Whatever they hear in it that's great, they don't know how to let it alone. That was the difference between Tom Werman and those guys. Tom got us in the studio and he let us rip. He heard us, he saw something that was in us that was special. Whether we achieved to reach that together, you know, only history will tell. God only knows. But what we did is still personified in people's hearts. The people that found our music, fell in love with it, will hold it dearly because they got the essence of what those 6 people were trying to say. Because he understood, you let this band put it down the way they feel it, we got it. If you start changing that, you're getting another spirit in there, which doesn't fly, it doesn't work, because chemistry in those days was most important. When you're talking about a self-contained band, the chemistry is what makes it work. And when you start picking at that chemistry, you start losing the essence of that, whatever that good is. And I want one more thing. You forgot to say the Smithsonian Museum.
Oh, tell me what you mean.
We are also there. You said the Georgia Music Hall, but we're also in the Smithsonian Museum as well.
Thank you for mentioning.
So we didn't do too bad. We didn't do too bad for 50 years, even though, you know, we don't have a lot of, you know.
I want to say I want to say one thing about that whole experience, and about after that, it became a thing. The chemistry of a band became a thing. You know, you let people, that's what was so cool about rock and roll. You know, you threw them in there and you didn't dare touch them. You didn't dare do anything to their music. They would probably kill you if nobody else would, you know, and you got so much, you know, it was all raw and it was very, very entertaining, and it was authentic, you know. I mean, it was human music. It wasn't made up music. It wasn't a design type of music. It was groups going into the studio and really laying down their heart and soul.
Yeah.
You know, and that wasn't never done before. And I think we were just a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Well, I think in a lot of stuff we were a little bit ahead of our time.
You know, so, you know, come see.
But that's okay.
No, I would agree. I had the good fortune of interviewing Tom Werman just a couple of weeks ago, and that interview will be coming out soon. And he talked about going to see you for the first time. And his story was that he to listen to you, and he says, I'm in this place listening to this band and they're just killing it, and I'm looking around the room and saying, where is the industry? There's nobody here. How is everybody missing this? Am I going crazy? But what he didn't tell me, what he did not tell me, which I found out later, was that it took him 3 times to sign you, that you turned him down twice. Is that true?
Oh, did we?
Well, yeah,
somebody turned him down. It wasn't us.
Well, yeah, he had to do a lot of wooing, you know, because at that time
Oh, that was after RCA. That's
yes,
why.
and we swore we'd never go into the studio again. Right, yeah. We're gonna stay on the road. We're just gonna do live music. We're gonna stay in hotels for the rest of our lives, and we, you know, and be damned all the rest of it. Right. And Tom came at first. This kid came from CBS, and he saw us, and he was going like, "Dude, are you guys signed?" He said, "No, we're not signed. We don't do that. We don't do signings with especially big record companies." And then he went and told Tom. Tom came down there, and he was like, "Yeah," okay. He was, you know, I love the music, blah 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 blah, and we just didn't trust him. We just, you know, this is another guy that's going to come and just going to take it and he's going to ruin it. So he had to convince us that he was going to do this, and I think that was wise for both of us, because it made him stick to what he was going to do, and he understood. We talked a lot, you know. I mean, we would get pretty stoned and sit down and talk about
Tom the man. Tom is the man.
Yeah, and we had a lot of fun.
Let's talk about the Weirman albums. The first one, you just, as a kind of, obviously you must have really not liked RCA, because you went ahead and titled your first album with him Mother's Finest again, which is what you titled the first album with RCA. There's a song on that album that has a very controversial title, and I would prefer, Glenn, that you say the name of that title rather than me, if you're comfortable saying it.
Oh, you talking about Niggas Can't Say?
That's correct. What's the title?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was trying to liberate the masses. I was really, that word was something that I thought that, you know, I thought people really should use the word and get comfortable with it, and then, you know, defang the word, take the poison out of it, you know, by letting it rip, you know. I even had a T-shirt, a baseball T-shirt, and it had NIGGIZZ on the back of it, you know, and niggas, the proper way to say it, you know.
Again, too early.
But, you know, I mean, I reflect on that stuff, and especially me. I don't know where my head was at, except that it was where it was supposed to be.
Yes.
And I did a lot of stuff like that. That was probably the major thing that I did. But the whole race relations, especially at that time, I just thought we were so far behind, which we were, and we weren't going to move ahead, you know, for a while, you know. And I was just doing something that just wasn't gonna happen.
Nobody was ready to let that word be out there comfortably, you know, and without any negative ingenues.
Right. But boy, you know, the most fun I ever had was we played, it was either Aerosmith or
Howard University?
No. Aerosmith.
Okay, well, Aerosmith was at the West Music here in Atlanta.
It was in Pennsylvania, somewhere
up in the New York area.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And it was either them or Ozzy Osbourne's.
I think you're talking about Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah. We walked out on the stage, and it was dark, and we're yelling at the audience, and they're yelling back, "Oh, go, we're gonna rock and roll." But it was definitely with Ozzy Osbourne's. What's the name of his band? Ozzy Osbourne and the very heavy metal band.
Okay. Start me to line.
Yeah. Okay. We'll think about it then. But anyway, when the lights came on, people were like,
they were in shock.
They were. They start throwing things at us, and they start had this.
Was too many black people.
One kid had a cross, and he was like that, and I just slung into niggas.
See, they knew the music, but they didn't know that the band was predominantly black.
I said niggas can't sing rock and roll, and boy, oh boy, they were so conflicted. It was so much fun seeing what human beings just kind of like a fish out of water. They didn't know what to do. It was like, oh yeah, well, no,
no. It was a trip that night.
And then as I walked off the stage, I threw the biggest finger that I could.
Yeah, we used to get in trouble with that. I'll tell you, he's old school and he retaliates as a black man.
Oh, it was.
But that was the climate, and it's way different now these days. And I think we all talk spiritually a lot in private that our plight in life as a band was not to be as huge as people thought we should have been.
Mm-hmm.
But the message that we carried with us by the music that we played and how we carried ourselves and the makeup of the band was really what we were about. Because we carried that message of racial community with us everywhere we went. Now, granted, our audiences were predominantly white because Black people were not ready for loud guitar or even any essence of heavy metal at that point, and a band who didn't wear the same suits or whatever. Because Black music, white artists, Black artists are quite different. That's, being honest. There's a line that they draw. And a lot of our people didn't want us to walk the line we walked because they knew the danger of the success would be. A lot of times we were going to be kept away from success because they didn't want to see a band like us make it. Yeah. Because there was, what's the word for that? There was, well, I'll say danger. There was a danger in that. They didn't want to see that what they consider white music be disturbed by a predominantly Black band playing it as good as the white boys.
And this was the industry we're talking about.
And we're talking about industry. And there were a lot of conversations about the guys who were empowered want to make sure that we didn't make it because they didn't want to see that disturbed. That's fine. But I'm not sure that it's changed, but there are a lot more of the bands out there. Well, even just mixing it. I mean, look at country. Country is not country no more. It's kind of rock and hip hop. Right. Now they're blending, but this is 50 years later. They're blending. They know there's no danger in cultivating two cultures together with music. Music has always been the lifeblood of human beings anyway. So why not use it? Don't shut it down. And people in music have always been the ones to carry the message of community as far as these humans on this planet. You know what I'm saying? So I think that we, like I said in private talk, that God kind of wanted us to carry his message that we need to get it together and get it together quickly.